curious. I have a religious question. And John the Baptist, I've been thinking about him lately, that he preached them about the light.
Yes, he did.
Light. And purification through water, and accepting the light in life, or helping people remember who they were through their light beings. But I think that a lot of his teachings have been misinterpreted. And I wondered if you could talk about your ideas about baptism.
Well, you have a duality there when you talk about purification, in the sense that we use the word today, and in the sense that was probably used actually in his time, and the light. Because the purification stems from the teachings that have utilized Adam and Eve, have utilized that sense that humans are born with original sin, that humans are not perfect, that we are not worthy of God. And I feel that John the Baptist was actually using water, because it was the Piscean age. He was using water as the current of consciousness that didn't wash. It wasn't about washing away the sin. It was about rebirth. It was being born into the light. It was about quickening, because water is actual electrofluidity. And that's the stage that we're going into now, is electrofluidity. That's a different kind of energy. It's a kind of cosmic energy. So when he was talking about bringing in the light and utilizing the light, he was doing that because he was a cosmic being, because he was connected to the light. So he was using the conduit of fluidity to create the motion that would allow that kind of quickening. I had a tremendous experience one time in the Bahamas, where they say that Atlantis would rise again, but also was destroyed, part of it. And when you would dive, it was off of Bimini, when you go into the water, when you would stand up, there would be bubbles, and they were electrical. You felt charged in your skin, but you weren't wet. And so John the Baptist was using those technologies. He was using that of creating a stopping point of the gross energies of humanity at that time, because humanity was without light. Humanity was completely absorbed in survival and flesh, and did not have the awareness of light, did not have any connection to anything passing through them except meat or something of that order. So he was using that baptism as a birthing into a new octave, not as getting rid of the sins or purification. Purification is not, again, about is not focused on, although the result of it is dissolving the negativity or the slow vibrations, because you don't have to. If you focus on the light, the energy, because the speed of light is so much faster than sound or anything else, the rest simply falls away. And so I feel that all of those beings, they were like seeds of beings that came in before Jesus the Christ came in and planted those seeds that offered humanity a remembrance point. But the remembrance point was not about being unworthy of some male god out there, but it was about remembrance of our essence energy, which is light.
It seems that some people now, they interpret it as a means of access to their idea of heaven and hell, this dichotomy that we created in our understanding of Christianity. Yes. And if you are baptized, then you accept Christianity, the Lord as your Savior, and you go into heaven, and blah, 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 blah. And that really doesn't have anything to do with it.
Nothing.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with it. First of all, Christianity wasn't there. So the duality of heaven and earth and the devils and hell and heaven weren't a part of the story, because those beings had a kind of expanded consciousness that was completely focused on the light. It wasn't focused on survival. It wasn't focused on if you're bad, you go here, and if you're good, you go there, or you're pleasing God. None of that. And that's why I find it interesting that, for example, in Christianity, which I wrote in the book, The Evolution of God, that the Pope has now said that babies who die before they're baptized will only go to hell for a certain period of time. Now, even if you're Catholics, even if you're good Christians, you have to just take a deep breath and see that there's a problem there. How could anything that's being born into this realm, that's bringing the light, if you've ever seen birth, you will know that this is true. Coming in could be, because it's not baptized, be holding sin, original sin, and should be punished in hell, but hell only for a certain period of time. Now that's a new ruling. That has only happened in the last couple of years. Before that, if a baby died before they were baptized, they were sentenced to hell eternally. So that's why I wrote that book, saying it's time. We don't have to give up the gods that we have or the religions that we have, but it's really okay, in fact it's necessary for us to give up thought forms that are not worthy of human consciousness, because that is not worthy of human consciousness. And so we are in the middle of reinterpreting, what were these people saying? And even if you find the Gospels, the Gospel of Mary, the Gospel of Judas, these Gospels, you have to recognize that they were written either by the ones who were speaking it, who were using their human form, or what they said to other people who then wrote it down. And so we can't hang on to trying to define, for example, what this baptism meant, because it was interpreted by others who were not doing the baptism, therefore could have no idea what it actually meant. So they interpreted it as, okay, I get in the water, and now I'll be a new being, and I will not be guilty, because they had the stories. They had Adam and Eve. The story of Adam and Eve is not new to Christianity. It was a mythology that was brought probably from tribal times, because very quickly heads of religions and heads of tribes realized that if you want to make your tribe behave, you have to scare them. And so they scared them by saying, oh, well, somebody's going to get you. And we're still talking about the boogeyman. And so those were very convenient ways of interpreting teachings. And look what they did to John the Baptist. Off of his head, as if you could get rid of his teachings by taking his head, you know, or stopping the concept. And here we are, 3,000 years later, still baptizing, but we haven't really used it in the grace that we could use it. First of all, just imagine the power of baptizing yourself or another being. Simply holding the intention. You don't have to go through the act. Somewhere along the line, somebody said, maybe it was Yoda, that the master does not. The master does not do. Because the consciousness holds all potential. So you don't have to go to the act, take them to the water, throw the water or the oil on them. We do that because in our consciousness we want to make sure that we did it, that it's real. That's why I'm smiling and saying that truth is one of our greatest illusions, our sense of truth. And so, if you hold in your consciousness, I baptize myself, I lift myself into a higher vibration, then you've already created that. The water is simply your way of making sure that you recognize that you did it.